the 3-step process that I use to compress my bass guitars. If you don't know me, my name is Tyson, and I am a mixing and mastering engineer at Night Owl Music Group. Let's dive in. What I'm going to be covering in this video is first, the bass guitar dynamic goals. The second thing is common issues with the bass guitar dynamics, so we can identify if our goals are not already met. Third, we're going to be going to my go-to bass compression chain, bass guitar dynamic goals. They're to be consistent bass for the production, right? It's kind of like the bread that's essentially holding all of your elements together. And so that's kind of the kick and the bass guitar, kind of those elements that provide the base for the production to live on, so that we get the right ratio between filling in the sandwich and then the actual bread itself. Number 2 is the groove. So we want our bass guitar to have groove, and whether that is groove as in it needs to cut through the mix a little bit with impact, or it's an actual like just groovy bass line that we want to be able to enhance with dynamics. Diving into issues, the first one is macro dynamic variation. So as you can see here, this is an excerpt from a song, and we have one note that is very loud, very present, and then the next one is too quiet. This is what I refer to as macro dynamic variation. So this is the opposite of consistency. The second issue that we'll be running into is weak versus strong transients and peaks. And so when we're looking at this, we have a very strong transient or very strong peak right at the beginning of this section. And then in this area over here, we have very weak transients and very weak peaks inside of this take. And so this is the second thing that we'll be running into and fixing with our bass compression. So I'm going to be referring to styles of compression. If you're confused by that, then go ahead and pick up this guide. If you don't have the compression style guide, it's down below. So the first type of compression that we may want to add to our bass is consistent type compression. This is going to fix those micro dynamic variation issues that we have inside of our bass, fixing those quieter notes and bringing them up in volume in comparison to the louder notes. And so making all those notes more consistent. Here we have our compressor here, a very fast attack and a relatively longer release, because we're going for consistency. We want to capture the entire note. 3 decibels of gain reduction out of this. Let's gain stage this plugin here really quick. And I'm using RMS here for the measurement. So here's without. So minus 24.8, so minus 25 basically. Okay, so it looks like it's about a decibel of gain reduction. So let's add another decibel here. All right, so that's perfect. This take is so consistent. I don't know if I really truly needed this type of compression on here, but just I wanted to demonstrate exactly how you would dial that in if you were going to use the whole chain and your bass needed some more consistency, right? If you are trying to get professional sounding mixes for yourself, this is going to teach you the 5 objective standards that everybody is judging your mix by, and ultimately how to solve all 5 of those issues inside of your mix in order to have an objectively professional sounding mix. Go ahead and go pick up that book. The next type of compression that I'm going to be using in my compression chain is thickness type compression. So this can be a very powerful type of compression to use with your bass, especially if your tails are a little bit inconsistent. The reason why we want this is that it fixes too strong transients. So if the transient is too strong on some notes and not strong enough on other notes, it's going to just bring those ones that are too loud down to match the other ones. We have some differences in transients across the board here. Like for example, this one's pretty loud. This one's a little quiet over here. Even in with these takes, some of them, there's just like some peaks, right, that kind of poke out a little bit. Those are really what we're aiming for with this type of compression. To dial in this type of compression, we're going to use a very fast attack. So I'm going to use 0 milliseconds, and then I'm going to use a fast release as well, because again, I'm trying to mostly target just those transients. In this case, I'm going to get a lot of gain reduction because I'm trying to dig into the tails a little bit of the notes as well. So let's start dialing this in here. And so it feels a little bit dead because it's reducing the gain a lot, actually reducing some of the liveliness of the basses because of that. So let's go and gain stage this here really quick. So it's minus 26 or minus 27 basically with, and then here's without. And it was minus 25-ish. Gain this up 2 decibels. And then we're going to back this mix knob off to about 50%. I'm getting about 6 decibels of gain reduction. I normally aim for about 3. Basically, it's mixing in about 3 decibels of gain reduction because it has about half of this signal that's the wet or the compressed signal, and then half the dry. Yeah, I'm digging this. Okay, so here's without. Here's with. I'm gonna do it one more time for you. Listen to those transients specifically, so the beginnings of the notes. Okay, so the next one is punchy or groovy type compression. The idea here is that we're going to be increasing the transients of the notes. Use the thickness type compression to control all of those transients, basically reduce all of them. Now we're gonna be adding them back in. I might want to just add punchy type compression, so I'm reducing the tails, increasing the transient, more impact to the notes, versus groovy is going to increasing the transient and the end of the tail. So basically it's kind of scooping out the middle a little bit, adding some more movement to the bass overall. So the goal here is fixing those weak transients. Regardless of what I do here, it's always gonna have a longer attack because groovy has a long attack and a short release versus punchy type compression has a long attack and then a long release. So it just really depends on, do I want to control the tail or do I not want to control the tail? I'm gonna start with punchy type compression, so I'm gonna have a longer release. So let's start around 400. Attack is probably gonna be around 50 to 100. Increase this knee so that it treats each of those notes more consistently. So I'm gonna use a 3-to-1 ratio and let's dive in. All right, let's gain stage this real quick. So it's minus 24.9. So minus 27.6, I think it's 2.5. Yeah, it's almost perfect. Let's dial in the groovy type compression here real quick. I'm not gonna change the attack, I'm just changing the release. That's the only thing I'm gonna be changing in this. Let's regain stage this, so without, minus 25. So minus 27-ish, so that's 2 decibels or so. Try 1.5. Quick, so here's without, then we're going punchy, then groovy. All right, so in the context of the mix, punchy's gonna sound better. Yeah, I like the punchy style better in the context of the mix because it's just allowing that bass to kind of poke out, especially on those little accent notes. So here is in the context of the mix, here's without. If you haven't already picked up my book, The Objective Mix, I would highly recommend it if you are trying to get professional sounding mixes for yourself. This is going to teach you the 5 objective standards that everybody is judging your mix by, and ultimately how to solve all 5 of those issues inside of your mix in order to have an objectively professional sounding mix. Go ahead and go pick up that book. It also shows my entire mixing workflow, so you can just follow it step by step and just walk through an entire mix with this framework. So go ahead and pick that up if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next video here real soon.